I noticed that my speech today was leveraging technology to create a global ocean community. I'm going to change that on you, and I'm going to leverage technology to create a new country. The many hundreds of people.
From royal palaces to Silicon Valley boardrooms, from the Oval Office to billion-dollar board meetings, a secret list has surfaced, and the names on it are nothing short of earth-shaking. Locked away in a frigid Florida prison cell, Ghislaine Maxwell, once the queen of high society, is said to be quietly writing down the names of 9 men who allegedly kept Jeffrey Epstein's empire alive from the shadows. We're talking world leaders, tech tycoons, billionaires, and even royalty, men who weren't just guests, but architects. Power brokers. Alleged protectors of one of the darkest operations in modern history. The question is, what did they know? What did they trade? And just how deep does this rabbit hole go? Stay with me until the end, because once you hear who made the list, you'll never look at them the same way again. For years, the whispers stayed locked behind NDAs, sealed court files, and quiet payoffs. In elite circles, people claimed to know who was really bankrolling Jeffrey Epstein's lavish lifestyle, but no one dared to say it out loud. That silence may have just shattered. Sources claim Ghislaine Maxwell has begun leaking details in private, tense conversations with federal agents. And she isn't naming minor players, she's pointing the finger at 9 men with the kind of influence that can shape industries, bend laws, and rewrite history. These weren't casual visitors to Epstein's office. According to Maxwell, they were the scaffolding that held the whole operation together. They opened doors, provided protection, and, whether knowingly or not, allowed Epstein to operate in plain sight for decades. The alleged list spans continents, tech innovators who shaped the internet, media magnates who decide what we see, political heavyweights who once ruled nations, and princes born into palaces. And Maxwell's timing? Chillingly deliberate. She reportedly made these revelations before her arrest, not as a confession, but as a calculated move. A reminder that she knows where the skeletons are buried and who helped put them there. Piece by piece, the structure Epstein built is starting to crack. And the first name on the list? A man who once held the most powerful job in the world. He was once the most powerful man on the planet. But long after leaving the White House, Bill Clinton stayed in the spotlight championing humanitarian causes, building his foundation, and, if Maxwell's claims are true, staying far closer to Jeffrey Epstein than he's ever admitted. Flight logs tell part of the story. At least 26 trips aboard Epstein's infamous Lolita Express between 2001 and 2003. And here's the part that turns heads: several of those flights reportedly happened without Secret Service protection. For a former US president, that's almost unthinkable. One trip in particular raises eyebrows: a 2002 journey to Africa with Epstein and Maxwell under the banner of an HIV/AIDS charity mission. Noble cause or perfect cover? Clinton has flatly denied knowing anything about Epstein's crimes. In 2019, he released a statement claiming he'd only visited Epstein's New York home once, had never set foot on the private island, and hadn't spoken to him since 2003. But the photos, the foundation connections, and Maxwell's close relationship with the Clintons tell a murkier story. She wasn't just a distant acquaintance, she was a guest at Chelsea Clinton's wedding festivities. Coincidence? Or carefully cultivated access? There's no concrete evidence tying Clinton to Epstein's crimes, but in the court of public opinion, optics can be just as damning as proof. And once your name is linked to Jeffrey Epstein, it never truly leaves. Once celebrated as Air Miles Andy, Prince Andrew was the monarchy's globe-trotting trade envoy, a royal with connections in every corner of the world. But those connections led him somewhere he could never recover from, deep into Jeffrey Epstein's inner circle. Court-released flight logs show him on Epstein's private plane multiple times, including a 1999 trip to the Bahamas with Ghislaine Maxwell. And even after Epstein's first conviction for soliciting a minor, Andrew was photographed strolling through Central Park alongside the disgraced financier, a meeting that baffled and infuriated the public. Then came the photo. The one Buckingham Palace still wishes didn't exist, a smiling Andrew with his arm around a teenage Virginia Jeffrey Maxwell in the background. Jeffrey alleges she was trafficked to the prince at just 17 years old. Andrew denied it all. He questioned the photo's authenticity, claimed he was at a Pizza Express that day, and delivered a disastrous 2019 BBC New Night interview that did more damage than defense. Within days, the palace cut him off from public duties. In 2022, he quietly reached a reported $12 million settlement with Jeffrey without admitting wrongdoing. His military titles were stripped, his charitable ties severed, and his public life effectively erased. Insiders claim Queen Elizabeth herself helped fund the settlement to shield the monarchy from further fallout. But no royal immunity could protect Andrew from the reality. He'd become the family's greatest liability. From Buckingham Palace, we move to Palm Beach, where another of Maxwell's alleged 9 once laughed and partied with Epstein before making one of the most calculated public breaks in modern political history. In the lavish, sun-soaked world of 1990s Palm Beach, 2 names stood out: Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. They were more than acquaintances, they were fixtures in the same exclusive circles, caught on camera laughing together, surrounded by models and champagne. Trump even once called Epstein a terrific guy who likes beautiful women as much as I do. But the tone changed in 2007 after Epstein's first conviction. Attorney Bradley Edwards, who represented many of Epstein's accusers, claims Trump was one of the few public figures who actively helped investigators. That cooperation has since become a cornerstone of Trump's defense against any hint of wrongdoing. Still, the shadows linger. Epstein's infamous Little Black Book contained multiple phone numbers and contacts linked to Trump and his associates, even a letter signed by Trump alongside the outline of a nude woman. In 2016, during Trump's first presidential campaign, a lawsuit accused both men of assault at a 1990s party. It was dismissed almost immediately, with Trump's legal team calling it politically motivated and false. No charges were filed. Then came July 2019. Epstein was arrested, and President Trump delivered a cold, calculated statement. "I knew him like everybody in Palm Beach knew him. We had a falling out a long time ago. I was not a fan." On the surface, it was simple distancing. But behind those words was a decades-long history, shared parties, Mar-a-Lago connections, and a 1992 video of the 2 men chatting and pointing out women together. Trump's allies insist his break from Epstein was real and years in the making. His critics call it political theater. Either way, his name, like Clinton's and Andrew's, is now permanently etched on the edges of the Epstein scandal. From Palm Beach, we shift to the boardroom, to the billionaire retailer who may have handed Epstein the keys to his empire. If Jeffrey Epstein was the man pulling strings behind the scenes, Les Wexner was the one who first handed him the strings. Wexner, the retail giant behind L Brands, the empire that owned Victoria's Secret, was a notoriously private billionaire. He was known for his tight inner circle, attention to detail, and absolute control over his business world. That's why it shocked insiders in the late 1980s when Wexner entrusted Epstein, a man with no college degree and no formal financial training, to manage his vast personal fortune. This wasn't just a business arrangement. Wexner gave Epstein unprecedented authority over his finances, assets, and access to his name. That included transferring to Epstein the deed to a massive Manhattan townhouse, a 7-story mansion that would later become infamous as one of the main sites of his alleged abuse. Wexner insists he cut ties with Epstein in 2007 after the first criminal investigation. But court records and witness statements suggest Epstein continued living in the Manhattan property until his 2019 arrest, raising questions about just how severed that relationship really was. Even more disturbing, legal filings allege Epstein had a hand in selecting Victoria's Secret models. Wexner has denied this outright. In 2020, facing growing pressure, he stepped down from the L Brands board and accused Epstein of stealing $46 million from him, a betrayal, he claimed, that blindsided him. But critics aren't convinced. Was Wexner truly in the dark, Or did he know just enough to stay silent? One thing is certain, his legacy is now permanently intertwined with Epstein's, a shadow that even billions in retail success can't erase. From the boardroom to the courtroom, the next name on Maxwell's alleged list is a legal heavyweight who crafted one of the most controversial plea deals in modern history. Few lawyers in America are as famous or as polarizing as Alan Dershowitz. A Harvard law professor turned celebrity attorney, he built his career defending high-profile clients like O.J. Simpson, Mike Tyson, and even Donald Trump. So when Jeffrey Epstein needed a legal powerhouse in 2005, Dershowitz was the man at his side. What followed became one of the most criticized plea deals in modern legal history. In 2008, despite dozens of credible accusations, Epstein served just 13 months in jail, with daily work release that let him leave 6 days a week. Dershowitz called it the best deal of my career. For Epstein, it was freedom. For the public, it was outrage. Years later, Epstein's accuser Virginia Giuffre named Dershowitz in court documents, claiming he was part of Epstein's abuse network. Dershowitz fired back hard, suing for defamation, writing books defending himself, and insisting he had evidence proving he'd never even met her in the context she described. The battle ended in 2022 with a joint statement. Giuffre withdrew her claims, saying she may have made a mistake. Dershowitz declared victory. But for many, the damage was already done. His name was now indelibly tied to Epstein's, no matter the outcome. He continues to argue that guilt by association should never replace proof, and that defending someone in court is not the same as endorsing their actions. But in the murky world where law, power, and morality collide, public perception often has the final say. From the courtroom, we move to a man who preferred to avoid the spotlight altogether until his personal ties to Epstein became impossible to ignore. Before Jeffrey Epstein's name was a scandalous headline, Glenn Dubin was the definition of quiet wealth. A hedge fund billionaire and co-founder of Highbridge Capital Management, Dubin kept his profile low, his philanthropy high, and his personal life firmly out of tabloid reach. But behind closed doors, his connection to Epstein was unusually close. His wife, Dr. Eva Anderson Dubin, had dated Epstein years before marrying Glenn. And even after Epstein's 2008 conviction, the friendship didn't just survive, it thrived. Epstein dined at the Dubins' Manhattan home. He was reportedly friendly with their children. Court documents revealed something even stranger. Epstein had named the Dubins' daughter as a potential heir to his fortune. Prosecutors were stunned. Then came Virginia Giuffre's testimony, claiming she'd met Dubin as a teenager within Epstein's network. Dubin denied it outright, saying his contact with Epstein was limited and entirely social. No charges were ever filed, but the questions remained. Why maintain such a close relationship with a convicted sex offender? Why let him into your home and around your kids after the world knew who he was? Even after the storm hit, Dubin's charitable work continued, including major funding for cancer research and the Dubin Breast Center at Mount Sinai Hospital. But in the court of public opinion, silence often speaks louder than philanthropy. From quiet Manhattan dinners, we turn to the high-stakes world of Wall Street and a billionaire whose payments to Epstein shocked even seasoned finance insiders. On Wall Street, Leon Black was a titan. As co-founder of Apollo Global Management, he oversaw a private equity empire managing hundreds of billions of dollars. He was known for aggressive deals, sharp instincts, and until recently, an untouchable reputation. That changed when it emerged that between 2012 and 2017, years after Epstein's conviction, Black had paid the disgraced financier more than $158 million. For most of the world, Epstein was toxic by then. Companies, politicians, and even former friends were scrambling to distance themselves. But Black? He got closer. His explanation: Epstein provided sophisticated estate planning, tax advice, and philanthropic consulting. But the sheer size of the payments, more than most CEOs make in a lifetime, set off alarm bells. What advice could possibly be worth that much, especially from a man whose reputation was already radioactive? Under mounting pressure, Black stepped down as Apollo's CEO in 2021. Officially, it was for personal reasons. Unofficially, few believed the timing was a coincidence. He has denied any involvement in Epstein's crimes, insisting their relationship was purely transactional. But in the eyes of the public, those hundreds of millions weren't just payments, they were a permanent stain. From the boardrooms of New York, Maxwell's alleged list takes us back into the political arena and to a former prime minister whose visits to Epstein's mansion raised more questions than answers. Bill Gates, the man who built Microsoft, transformed personal computing, and poured billions into global health initiatives. For decades, his name was synonymous with innovation and philanthropy. But between 2011 and 2013, Gates made a choice that would haunt his public image. Multiple times during those years after Epstein's conviction, Gates met privately with him at Epstein's Manhattan townhouse. Gates later claimed the discussions were about philanthropy and funding. But the question hung in the air: why meet with a convicted sex offender at all, and more than once? When pressed in a 2021 interview, Gates called the meetings a big mistake. Many weren't satisfied with that explanation. If it was truly about networking or charity, couldn't Gates have met with literally anyone else? Even closer to home, the decision caused friction. Melinda French Gates reportedly met Epstein once, was disturbed by him, and urged Bill to cut ties immediately. Not long after the Epstein news became public, the couple announced their divorce. While neither blamed the scandal outright, the timing spoke volumes. Today, Gates remains one of the richest people in the world, with a fortune north of $130 billion. But no amount of wealth or charitable work has erased the shadow of those meetings. And with that, Maxwell's alleged 9 are complete, each a study in how proximity to Epstein carried risks that money, power, and prestige couldn't shield against. 9 names. Different worlds. Politics, royalty, Wall Street, tech, media. On paper, they have little in common, except for one thing. Their paths all crossed with Jeffrey Epstein long after the world knew who he was. Some gave him millions. Some traveled with him. Some opened their homes, their networks, and in a few cases, their reputations to a man already branded a predator. No criminal charges have been filed against any of them. Many deny wrongdoing entirely. Yet in the court of public opinion, the stain doesn't wash away. And maybe that's because it's not just about what happened, it's about when. These weren't youthful mistakes or brief encounters from the distant past. For some, the ties stayed strong after Epstein's 2008 conviction, when the whole world had already seen the mask come off. Glenn Dubin stepped into the shadows. Leon Black resigned under fire. Ehud Barak lost part of his public trust. Bill Gates faced the first serious blow to a carefully crafted image. Clinton, Andrew, Trump, their names forever linked to a scandal they can't seem to outlive. So here's the question that lingers long after the headlines fade. Were these connections just coincidence, or calculated alliances made in the shadows? Because if even half of what Maxwell has allegedly claimed is true, then the real story isn't just about Epstein. It's about the people who stood close enough to feel the heat and didn't step away until it was too late. Which of these names surprised you most? And do you believe these were innocent associations or something far more deliberate?